Domlink, it's your Blink. Welcome to our show. You guys are doing well, so having a wonderful day. Sorry about the lights. Yeah, there's a nice sunrise. I was about to eat breakfast, watching My Thoughts, which is my favorite commentator of the moment. Fucking love My Thoughts. If you're looking for a good person to be watching for recap, right? Watch My Thoughts. She recaps Love Is Blind. She recaps a bunch of shows. Holy shit! Look at this. There's not a bump in the thing. What the heck happened? Did it got too warm? Yeah, it is a bump over here too. Yeah, it got too warm. It's okay. We're eating oatmeal. I never was a fan of oatmeal. But we're eating cookie and creams, which is actually quite a nice flavor. Quaker. So not a sponsor, but hey. Today we're talking about a video that I would prefer not making. But for the people that follow me, and I've been getting a lot of people asking me if I'm okay. I've been reading your comments. I'm not answering the comments. I'm not making content. I'm not making videos because I feel depressed. And I don't want to use that term lightly, but I do feel depressed. And now, please understand there's a difference between feeling depressed and depression itself. I think you can be feeling depressed without technically being in depression. I think depression is when you're spending a long amount of time depressed. So I'm gonna be talking about what's going on. The reason why I'm making this video, again, please understand, it's not to play the victim. I'm actually gonna make myself look at not that I repeated this video, but I'm watching a lot of recap, right? And in the recap, I don't know. I feel like it's changing my perception or my perspective on narrative. So I'm gonna go into like a deep dive of why the situation, what exactly happened, because I realized that I've been telling you guys how I feel about the whole thing, how depressed I am. You guys know why I'm depressed, or feeling depressed at the very least. But I never really explained the situation of what exactly happened. So I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna tell you what exactly happened, so make me sad. Then we're gonna go on a deep dive of my childhood, and because it has to do with my childhood. So I went to my father's house last week, right? And we had a good conversation. We were having a good conversation, but a couple of days before that, I had like a little something that bothered me on a phone call. So my apartment building there's been a warning for vermin. Now, I did find a mouse in my apartment. I did find some pack of ramen open. Now, I don't know if there was a lot of them, but I had to put traps, right? Now, I'm fucking thankful that I didn't catch any of them. Either the traps are not good or somebody else catched them. Now, I did put traps. Do I want to be the one that find dead mouse or rat in his apartment? No. I don't know what I would do if I catch one. I think I'm gonna give it to the janitor and just take care of it, right? Because yes, they're vermins, and see, it's a very I haven't made content in a while, so I'm gonna be extremely talkative today, but also very thoughtful, or very in my thoughts more so, which is the channel that we're watching, My Thoughts. And now you got a nice sun, which is super cool because we're filming it. It's actually quite cloudy. Cookie and cream. I don't really enjoy oatmeal, but then this is really good. This is really really good. Oh yeah. The problem with this is I'm gonna get used to the sweetness of it. So when I'm gonna be eating oatmeal, because I'm trying to lose weight, and oatmeal is great when you want to lose weight. It's proven to be one of the great food. So the problem with that is when I'm gonna go for nature oatmeal, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to enjoy it as much as I'm enjoying this. It's like going for a cake with icing to a cake without icing. It's like going for a steak with only salt, then going to a steak with no salt. So for the vermin, I hope I don't have to deal with that, but I put some trap, right? Then my father was talking to me about how, oh, you have a lot of food in your apartment. You have a lot of food. Now, if you want to know why I have a lot of food, I do have a lot of food. The reason actually quite simple. I'm gonna show you. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. So we have this, which a lot of canned soup, right? You can see the trap here. Um, we also do have a lot of food on the balcony. Now it's winter, so I do it. But yeah, so this is the food that was in the. This is all the dry food, because the pantry or the walk-in contains. So this is the food, right? Take a picture of it, whatever. Often put some food that will not go bad. Now, the reality is, I do have a lot of food. I have too much food. You see, there's a beautiful sun. I'm gonna go take a walk. So, how can I say that? The reality is, I do have a lot of food. Now, I can tell you the reason as to why. It's not a big deal, but we're going into deep with this subject, right? As a kid, wasn't allowed sugar. So when you're not allowed sugar, the first thing you do when you're on an apartment, you eat sugar. Now, see, as a kid, I was raised on Ritalin and Concerta, which it kind of cuts your appetite, right? And your appetite is a lot lower. I don't know. I always had this fear of, and it wasn't lacking food per se, but it was lacking food into, well, I'm only eating one meal a day, even as a kid. Let's enjoy that meal, right? So yeah, so then the pandemic hit, and I started freaking out. It's like, oh my god, do I have enough food, right? And if something was to happen, see, oh, there was also the case that before the pandemic, I was depressed. Now that was a depression. I wasn't depressed. I was a depression. I didn't want to go out, so I was like, holy shit, I got a lot of food here. Do I have enough? So during the pandemic, we start getting food and 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 getting food. And I have this problem where when I eat something, I want to replace it. So, for example, we ate a can of soup yesterday. In my mind, I would have to buy soup because I'm like, okay, well, I'm down one soup. Now, technically, I don't like. I don't know if it's OCD or some shit like that, but I cannot buy a single item. I have to buy in pairs. I don't know why. I don't know why. Just knowing that if I eat one, I still have one, it's good. Even with drinks, even with snacks. So that's a legit problem. Now, there is a for example, with this one, right? With the Quaker, there's not a number of how many pack there is, right? There's 8. So you see, but I would buy a box and I was like, okay, well, this is enough. Then I would buy another box of something else, but it doesn't matter. So yeah, with food, I have this problem. Now I've been trying to get the food lower, but I've had a really good job before, where money was not an issue, so I could replace the food. Now, ultimately, with the really good job that I had, if I had a chance between eating takeout and cooking for myself, I would choose cooking out, takeout. Sorry. So I wouldn't eat my reserve. Now, about a year and a half ago, we had a cockroach problem in the building. Now, again, my father was. You guys know how I talk about my father. You guys heard me talk about my fathers. You know that he's really important to me. You know that he's like a role model to me. Today is what? Today is Saturday. Okay, we can go out. I don't want to go out because I'm going to meet people. I don't feel like meeting people. Um. So yeah. So Oh shit. I don't know if I'm gonna have the space to film. I hope I have. Okay, we're good. I'm praying to God I'm good. Um, we're also uploading. We're also recording the tower. So my father, my father had given the key to the apartment. If something was to happen, he'd have the key. My father had given the key to the apartment. If I had some Amazon package, I was, he was able to come in. My father always had a problem with this thing called intimacy, and I know it's a father thing. We're gonna talk about this story, right? But he was always going to my stuff. I would go to my mom's house every 2 weeks, and every 2 weeks he would go to my stuff. Now, even then, I had places to hide stuff. So you want to know? So if you're younger and you live at your parents, if you're looking for a place to hide stuff, hide it in their room. They trust each other. They trust themselves. They might not trust you, but they trust each other, right? So yeah. Now, kind of nuts because with my father, I kept going to the apartment and he kept saying, "Oh, you have too much food." My father's a real simple man. It's like, "Oh, why have this much food when you can have like legit weeks of you can legit go to the store every single week." Well, first of all, when there's when there's a special, I remember growing up with him, and we had this food that we really liked, which was Campbell. It was cream of chicken. We really, really, really like that soup. And when it was on special, my father would buy 2 cans. I mean, when it was on special, I buy 10 cans. I really like it, and I'm like, I'm not gonna see the special for a couple of months. Not being cheap, but not wanting to spend money like a fucking dummy, right? So my father used to tell me every single time, "You have too much food," and he used to tell me that every single day. And he would leave notes in the apartment. "You have too much food." And it was his way to be passive aggressive, but it really bugged me. It really bothered me because I'm like, dude, I don't mind you coming to the apartment if you have to do something in the apartment. For example, if the landowner or the landlord, sorry, the landlord say, "Hey, we're gonna be checking the apartment to check out if the place is clean," right? My father, I didn't have to take a day off. My father could come. But then the problem with my father is he started coming in often, without telling me. Sometimes he wouldn't tell me. He would just come in, just check the apartment, not come in. Right? That would bug me because this is my space. I'm not coming to your place. I don't even have the keys to your house. Hear me out. I don't have the keys to my father's house. He kicked me out at 20. I had to give him the key. Kicked me out at 18. He didn't check to see if I had the keys. He kicked me out at 20. He took the keys. You know? So I'm like, okay. So then, the food was always an issue. And he would call me and says, and I would get mad at him. I'm saying, "What the fuck did you leave message around my apartment? If I have a guest, and I don't know the notes is there. Imagine a guest finding a note. Like, what the fuck is this? Oh, my father. What does your father decide how much food you should have? You know? So very, very strange. So the main reason for the arguments last week was I was on the phone. I was talking about the vermin problem. Like, "Oh, you have too much food in your apartment." And the problem is I received the warning that the building had an infestation 2 weeks ago. So I'm like, okay, well, my father, and I asked my father, "Hey, listen, I know you used to have traps. Do you still have them? I don't mind buying them, but if you still have some, like at the moment I'm on calls. I work on calls. They can spend weeks without calling me, you know. So money is an issue, and I'm not here to lie about it. I'm honest. So then he was like, "Yeah, sure, I have some." Then he gave me the traps, and then once again, I got lucky. I got called. He went to the apartment without my permission, and he put the traps there. And then I called him the same night to say, "Hey, thank you for the traps. I really appreciate that you put them there." Even though he came to the apartment, even though he didn't have my permission, I don't mind because at the same time, he was doing. I have to start wearing my glasses more because I forget them often, and that's not good. It has to be an habit. So I was like, "Okay, yeah, cool. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, you still have more food," and I'm like that, and I kind of got mad at him because again, I just spent, and this is absolutely the truth. I spent 9 months, 9, 10 months, 11 months. I don't know exactly. Let's call it a year. You know what? Let's call it a year. I spent the last year in the apartment filming videos, not going to work because I had unemployment, making videos after videos after videos after videos after videos after videos. I was staying. My father didn't come once. Now that my father knows that I'm on calls and I'm working, he goes to the apartment. So he knows he's wrong for that. So I got mad at him and I said, "You keep on telling me that I have too much food, but you're not offering solution. I live alone. Even if I was to eat the food, it would take me time. I live alone. I have enough food for a couple of months. I have enough food for multiple months. I can stop going to the. I'm not even kidding. I wish I was. I can stop going to the store and I have food, even the balcony, and I have food for the next. I want to say 3 months, but it might be 4. It might be 5. Who the fuck knows? My freezer is fucking full, and it's a good thing, right? And I'm like, you keep on telling me the problem, but you're not offering solution. So what am I supposed to do? And then I hear my stepmom, and this is something that really bugs me. My father has the horrible, horrible, horrible habits of when I call him, if you're going to put it on speakerphone. So there's comments that coming from her. Now, when it's a good comment, it's super nice. But even if it's a good comment, I'm like, I'm talking to my father, right? And again, it's not against her, but I'm talking to my dad. And then I hear her say, there's no use talking to him. And I was on the phone for literally, and I have the proof. I was on the phone with my father for literally 37 seconds. Because I hung up after that. I fucking hung up. Fuck that. There's no use talking to him. So then, this happened about a week and a half ago. I go back to my father's house a week ago on the, I want to say on the 2nd of March. And I don't attack him. I don't attack him. We're talking, we're having fun. Also recorded because if something was happened to my father's an old man. If he dies, I want to have some memories for him. Dude doesn't like to take pictures, doesn't like to make videos, so I record him without his consent. I'm an asshole. I'm an asshole kid, right? I'm not posting them. So, and we're having a conversation, a good conversation. So, and then we're talking about, I don't remember what we're talking about. They obviously didn't watch the video. But I remember I just mentioned, hey, I didn't appreciate that comment. And then he went in on me. And he was like, yo. And he was like, you don't appreciate the fact that we're having fun together? Or we're having fun together. We don't appreciate the fact that we're spending a good moment together right now. And I'm like, I do. But I want to be more honest with my feelings. So one of my biggest regrets in life is I spent decades. Actually, I spent a vast majority of my life. I think maybe a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago, I tried to be more vocal about my problems. At first, I was too shy. I was like, okay, well, I don't like the situation, but okay, I'll do it. I couldn't say no. I don't know why, but I could say no. Now I'm honest. And I told my father, I'm like, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that I didn't appreciate that. And he got really, really, really mad at me. Really mad at me. It's because I spoke how I taught. So, for example, this is something that happened twice now already. My father, about 2 months ago, no, maybe more. I don't remember when, but we had a conversation, and it was like, and he out of the blue, he tells me, I don't know if I can trust you with inheritance. And it came out of the blue. I'm like, okay. And I told him, okay. See, and he asked me, you don't care? I said, well, if my fucking father died, I'll be more sad about my father died than missing cash. Said word for word like that. And he got mad at me for not caring. Said, oh, you're gonna end up on the streets. I'm like, that. You asked me how I felt. I told you how I felt, right? I was with my emotion. I told you, and I made a video 2 days ago about also why I was so down, and I mentioned my ex, and I feel like a lot of people don't understand why I put my ex in, but with my ex, there's a lot of toxic relationship that I had in my life, and one of those toxic relationships, which was my ex, she asked me, hey, can we skip? I don't want to be nothing. I don't want to be with you anymore. I want to be friend. And I just said no, and I'm okay. I'm good. I don't need a friend. And she took it the wrong way, and she was mad at me, and I'm like, I could have just said that. I could have just said okay, and block you and ghost you. I'm not like that. I was honest. Not about my emotion. And again, possibly it's not something that you want to hear, but that's something I'm gonna say. And I have to stop trying to please people. I have to stop trying to please people if it means that I'm not gonna be pleased myself. I'm gonna be a bit selfish. right? Time to be putting my emotion first because my sanity, my mental health is good. It's important. Um, my father, and then I tell him, I'm not looking to fight with you. I'm just saying that I didn't appreciate the comment. And then he said, "You think I didn't? I appreciate when the way you left things here, the way you left." And I'm like, "Yeah, but that happened 12 years ago." My father was like, "What's the difference?" Well, I'm talking about something that's happening right now. You're talking to me about something that happened 12 years ago. And he was like, "Yeah, but I didn't forgive you." And at first it hit me like a fucking brick. I'm like, "What do you mean you didn't forgive me? It was still 12 years ago." And then he stopped talking. Then I asked him, "How much time are you still gonna be?" I said, "Again, it's all recorded. So I'm not gonna show you because it's private." But I said, that you understand that you're putting yourself through that." Say, "What do you mean?" I said, "I'm not pushing you to feel those emotions. You know I've changed. I'm not constantly saying, hey, you remember this, remember that? You're putting yourself through that." My father will still tell me about things that my mom did before the after or during their after before I don't know their honeymoon, which was for 20 plus years ago. I wasn't even fucking born. I wasn't even born. They were married. I think they got married when Jessica was born, so possibly 40 something years ago. And he tells me that he's never going to forgive me. He said, I said, "How much time am I going to keep torturing you like that? Yourself like that?" And he tells me my whole life. Now, ultimately speaking, me and my father, we have this really, really, really good relationship. My father's my role model. My mom, and I said that, and I said that I'm repeating myself, but this is completely, this is not to do. I'm going to be on the subject, so might as well put a conclusion on it. My mom was always about respect. My mom was always about love. My father was always about respect. My father, I've always, always, always respected him more than I loved him. And my mom, I've always loved her, no condition. My father is about respect, and my father is not a great communicator. He's not gonna know how to express his emotion. He's very delayed when it comes to emotional intelligence. He lives emotion, but doesn't know how to deal with them. And my father, there's often we stop talking, and it's always from me of my decision because my father, when he's mad, when he gets hurt, he's gonna hit below the belt. He's gonna throw something at you like hurtful. Like for example, he was asking me, and I don't want to talk about that, but I was looking for work, right? And that was a while ago though. That was a really long time ago. It was like in September. And I'm like, I'm looking that, I'm looking that, I'm looking that. Now the reality is, I was looking, but I could have looked harder. And I said, "How come you're not finding a job?" I said, "I don't know." And then he kind of whispered it, but he still said it. And he said that you look in the mirror, I wouldn't hire a fat person like you myself. And I was like, wait a second, what did you just say? He said, "Oh, nothing." I said, "No, no, I heard you say something. Say it." I said, "No, no, no, nothing." I said, "If you have balls, say it." And he said it. I'm like, who thinks like that? Then we started talking. So we stopped talking. So my father's going to say some really hurtful stuff. And the problem with my father is, and that's why I had such a hard time with the bully at work. They know they're doing something wrong. They know they're doing something wrong because right after they'll be nice to you. They'll be really nice to you. They'll be super nice to you so you forgive them. Which is a great thing. I'm all about forgiveness. Fucking forgive. Learn to forgive people. Oh, it's a beautiful sunrise. Learn to forgive people. But you know what I prefer than forgiveness? You know what's even more important than forgiveness? I'm just gonna put it out there. Just a thought. Just a thought. Food for thought. Not putting yourself in a position where you have to say sorry. Not putting yourself in a position where you have to ask for forgiveness. How about that for a change? That's also cool. So my father's saying that, and my father. The problem with my father was, and again, I think it has to do with the white reason why I'm sad. Is he had an operation on Friday, and this happened on Tuesday, last Tuesday. Um, so holy shit, it goes fast. No, 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 no. This operation was last Friday, not yesterday, but last Friday, and then we had the fight not this Tuesday, but last Tuesday. So we go in and he had this operation, and I didn't even give a fuck. I couldn't even feel bad for him. I couldn't even worry for him. I was so pissed off at him. I was so mad at him. I was so disappointed with the fact that he told me, and it doesn't matter if he meant it or not. You don't say shit like that. Literally said to his one son, his only child, I'll never forgive you. Now, my main problem with that isn't the fact that he won't forgive me. Right? It doesn't matter if he forgives me or not. It doesn't I don't care. There's a very big part of me, a very long part of my life, a 20 plus years of my life. I'm 32 by the way. Where forgiveness is important. But then I realize that some people will not forgive you. Some people you can't deal with. Some people you're in a position where it doesn't matter how hard you try, it doesn't matter to them. And my father, and I fucking love my father, but what I was really mad about, what I'm still hurt about, isn't the fact that he told me I'm never gonna forgive you. Isn't the fact that he's still mad. Even it's not the fact that he hasn't forgiven me. The fact that he never talked about it. He never talked about how he felt about that. He never talked about how much it hurt him. He never talked about, hey, I would have liked a different ending. So now I'm questioning every single moment that we had a fight. Were you every single time that he looked at me and I could tell that he was mad. Was it because of that? Because sometimes I'm gonna come into his house and he's already mad, and I cannot be like, "Yo, I'm just gonna leave." And my father. The worst thing is, my father, and that's a true story. That's an absolutely true story. I told you I used to come here without me wanting to, or without me knowing it's gonna come. My father, I can count on the fingers of my hands the number of times my father came to the apartment and I was there. My father came more often to check the apartment, to go through my stuff, than he went when I was there. Right? And it sucks because with my father, and I fucking love my father, I still love him a lot. But with my father, I'm put in a position where I have to be the bigger person. I'm put in a position where I have to be the one that forgives. And I forgive my father for a lot of shit, for a lot of hurtful things he said. Imagine both my parents dealing with stress. They said, "Oh, you're gonna kill me. You're gonna kill me with stress." No. Am I saying I'm a perfect person? No. But then you're supposed to forgive that. Both my parents kicked me out. Both my parents kicked me out. They didn't know if I had a place to stay. They didn't know if I was gonna be okay. They didn't know. My mom, she kicked me out, and she made sure that She told me, and again, I'm not, this was years ago. This was decades ago. My mom, she kicked me out, and she told me, "Give me your keys, and give me your bus pass." So the reason why she wanted the keys and bus pass, of course, she won't admit it, but when you think about it, is because she wanted me to come back to the house and beg for forgiveness. Then I'm a prideful person, so I'm like, nah. The bus, I had to lie. You can the bus. Not every single driver will let you ride for free, but they did. And yeah, and my mom, I didn't talk to her for years. See, my father kicked me out. My father had made sure that I had a place to stay. My father had made sure that I had a place to stay. My mom, she kicked me out. She didn't make sure that I had a place to stay. You know, I I've been homeless for a week or two. It's not a big deal, but still, it was a problem of money. It was a problem of what the fuck am I supposed to do? You know, and that's tough. That's really rough. Um, so I told you the situation. So my father, and it's not because you come to question, and it's about forgiveness, forgiving him, and once again, the way that this will move forward. I could call my dad and say, "Hey, we're all good today. I don't care about what you said. I'm okay," and it would be normal. It's not. See, he's able to go past the fact that he's still resentful towards that. I'm not. I'm like, if I forgive you, I give you the opportunity. See, it's like this, and again, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm not trying to be a dick, but I have to. It's like this toxic relationship. Your friends in a toxic relationship, and you see that person, and they go back to their relationship. They go back to their relationship. They go back, and you tell them they're not good for you, dude. They're not good. They're insulting you. They're violent. There's emotional abuse. But you're seeing that, you're aware of that, and you stay with that person. That's your choice. If I forgive my father, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. But again, and it's the question. The question I'm questioning every single moment that we spent together. Were you really enjoying that moment, or were you still mad at me? And I don't know. And I'm gonna question. And now the problem is, I'm gonna question. See, I understand talking and speaking because you're emotional. I understand that. I understand saying something that you're gonna be regretting because you're emotional. But now that every single time I'm gonna with my father, I'm gonna wonder, what is he thinking about? Is he thinking about how much I hurt him when I was younger? Right? Now, of course, you're talking about what has happened in the situation. I'm gonna be completely honest. So I was 6 years old, right? I was 6 years old. Parents separated. They divorced. I was lucky. My mom lived 10 minutes from my house. My father was there. The first year, see, me and my father, we never got along when I was younger. I was afraid of him. My father was very, very strict. My father, physical punishment, corporal punishment. My father was a really tough guy, and I was afraid of him. My mom, she was a sweetheart. She was always there for me, right? But then this resulted in me looking for my father's approval, my father respect, because my mom, I could fucking kill somebody, and she would still call me her baby boy. My father's like, no, I don't want to hear about him anymore. I don't know, maybe I'm a masochist, but to me, it's more normal the way my father's reacting. So we never really had a good relationship. There was one year that we had a really good relationship, and it was when it was only me and him. My mom, she just left. My stepmom wasn't a thing. Um, Now the most beautiful thing about my dad was he really put in the effort back then. Then when the girlfriend came, and again, I was young. I was really really young. Um, Again, I was 6 years old, right? Super immature. But my father was super mean, and right away, I think it was, I don't remember when I was too young. I think it was like the first month. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I remember I think she saw me do something bad. Tell my father, by then again, used to hit me. It used to hit me, and I remember very, very well the situation. I remember feeling like, yo, you're seeing this. And about my stepmom, you're seeing this. You caused this. Yes, I was an asshole. Yes, I wasn't a good kid, but you caused this. The hits I'm taking is because you talked, right? And it's stupid because the hit I'm taking was because I didn't act properly, right? And when I was a kid, there was a lot of time. It was a situation where they would gang up on me. It would gang up, right? And I remember being a kid, and these are really hurtful memories. I remember being a kid, being at a table, right? And I would eat my meal. And again, please remember, I was only eating one meal because of the medication, ADHD medication. Now I remember them both giving me shit. And I just had to stand there because if I missed that meal, I didn't have another meal until the next day. So I would wake up. My father would go to work at like 6:30. My father would wake me up at 5:30, would make me have my medication, and I would go back to sleep. Right? That medication stopped me from eating. I couldn't go for one meal. I thought I was gonna die. So I was taking in the abuse. I was taking in and it wasn't a remark. It was the whole meal giving me shit. The whole meal gave me shit. You remember? And it's crazy because then again, it always felt weird. It always felt weird because with my stepmom, it never really felt. My father and I were very similar. You can tell he raised me. So me and my parents are really weird. The way I act, the way I talk, the way I think. You're gonna tell my mom, my daddy raised me. I should tell. But you're gonna hear the way the idea that I have, or the opinion that I have, and I'm more sure my mom. My father is very factual. My mom is very emotional. I'm also very emotional. So, emotion wise or foundation wise, I'm more like my mom, but then trained like my father, right? And my father and I are both extremely vocal, so we talk a lot. And my stepmom, and now that I'm older, I realize it was hard for her because, and especially my father doesn't treat her well. And again, he's not hitting her, he's not being a dick to her, he's not insulting her, but there's time where she's gonna talk to him and he doesn't care. And he does that to me too. He does that to me too. But in my book, I don't care because I talk a lot. I talk a lot, so I'm like, okay, well, I probably talked too much and probably lost you somewhere along the way. But for her, she's like, are you even listening? And it sucks. As a partner, right? And with my stepmom, it really felt like we would have a conversation and she would just leave. And in my mind, I was a kid. I was like, the fuck? You just had the conversation, right? But then I picture myself, my father talking, and the two of us, we would talk for hours and hours and hours and hours. And she's not very talkative. So she was like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to listen to this. I have to listen to this. Then it's normal that you're gonna have to stop because we're not gonna stop. So you have to just leave, right? Um, so it always felt like me and my father were really similar, and it really felt like it. A lot of time, I felt like it was me and my father. And she was just. It's a really weird feeling. I don't know how to express it, but it really felt like it was me and my father, and she was living with us, right? Now it was a bit of my of their fault because they weren't affectionate. They weren't really affectionate. As a kid, I never saw them kiss. I never saw them kiss. I never saw them being romantic with each other. It was more so like a almost a roommate situation, right? Then I realized that as an adult, I realized that they possibly didn't want me to see it. Didn't. I don't know. I don't know. I remember being fucking 8, 9 years old, and I feel bad about that. But crying for my mom, crying for my mom and saying I want to see my mom. I don't want to be here. I want to be at my mom's house. That sucks as a parent to hear. It sucks. Now what happened was, and that's a beautiful story too. Why 8, 9 years old? I told you my mom, she left when I was 6. Well, she didn't leave. We got separated. My mom, she had me. So my mom, she's Egyptian and she's a smart person, but my mom doesn't understand the education system of Canada, so it's harder for her. So what exactly happened is my mom, she left, and then she had a boyfriend, and that boyfriend name was Soli. Soli is another story. Soli is he's a, it's a tough cookie to crumble. So my mom, she left and she lived far, 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 far. And that's when I miss my mom because I was like, okay, well, I don't know where she is. She's super fucking far. What am I supposed to do, right? And that became very, very different. I'm just gonna check something. Give me a sec. I'm gonna take a walk, guys. Sorry about this. Sorry about this. See, it was weird. It was weird because I never. There's a ton of time of like when she would give me shit. It's like, and again, that thing that you realize when you're older. She would tell my father because I wouldn't listen to her. See, I wasn't nice to her as a kid, but I wasn't nice to anybody. I treated her much better than I treated Soli. Soli was an asshole. Soli was fucking douchebag. Soli was a fucking douchebag. He would make fun of my mom in front of her. He was a fucking douchebag. But then The worst thing he did was leave her alone. I mean, emotional abuse. You got my mom. That's a true story. You got my mom a dog. You got my mom a dog because she felt alone. Knowing my mom didn't have the finance to get a home. If she left, she would leave the dog. She did leave. And the dog was mistreated. Not in the way of violence, but in the way of there's no care. There's no care for the dog. Right? So long story short, back to her. I was an asshole to her, but I wasn't being disrespectful. I wasn't being disrespectful at all. I would just be I would ignore her a lot. I would ignore her. Her opinion really didn't matter. Her opinion was like, okay, well, whatever, right? And I would ignore her, and I don't understand that's not cool, but that's just the way I was. Now, ultimately, the problem with that was, where do I even begin? She would talk to me, and as a kid, I used to do that a lot, and that's my fault too. They would tell me something to do something, and I would say yes, even though I didn't want to do it because I would get so much trouble if I said no. So I would say yes just to avoid them giving me shit, and then I would do it. I wouldn't do it, and it wouldn't give me shit. For example, I will always remember. That's stupid. That is so fucking stupid. I would always remember. I mean, that's. I would say that's too personal, but no, fuck it. I would remember. And see, I was an asshole as a kid. That's an embarrassing story, but there was a time where I discovered my hormones. I used to jerk off a lot. And at my parents' house, we always had a at my father's place, we had a basement, and I love the basement. See, my father and I we have really similar. So there's a lot of pattern behavior that I have from my father. So for example, one of the pattern behavior is I like to sleep on the couch because he used to sleep on the couch. He had problem with the whatchamacallit. He had problem with the digestion, right? The We had two living room. The first living room was you can see the streets, right? So people, and I didn't want to look like a loser. Like I don't want people to see me, so I would go down where nobody could see where I was. And I don't know why I thought it was going to be looking in, but I don't know. I'm a weird kid, right? So I would always go downstairs. It was nicer. It was calmer. The downstairs had the shittier TV. It had a really, really shitty TV. And I remember and that's my fault. We had a blanket. Okay? We had a blanket. And I would jerk off a lot. And again, I didn't really think about others because I was again a unique child, right? So I would and they were living there. So I would always hide under the cover. That way, if they went downstairs, they wouldn't see me. So we had a Christmas party, and the whole family was there. My cousin, my uncles, my aunts, and then one of them said, "Oh, it's cold in here." And then I remember her saying, "Don't use this cover, this blanket, because you use it for." And I remember everybody laughing. And again, I remember being mad at her for that. But then I did it. I was responsible for that. right? I didn't think about watching the cloth or the cover. I should have watched it, right? It was only normal when I was a dumb kid. So with her, it was always this. It was always almost this passive aggressiveness. And I had my father who was very when he was mad, you knew he was mad. I had myself when I was mad, I knew I was mad. See, we would get in trouble, and I never thought I could trust her, right? And then again, but again, it's my fault because I gave her so many reasons not to trust me, right? I used to lie a lot. When I was 21, 22, I used to lie and manipulate a lot. I used to fucking lie like crazy. I would lie for anything and everything. Now, the reason I said that is because I'm small. The reason I said that is because I'm not the strongest. The reason I said that is because I'm not the smartest. I'm not the strongest. I'm not the most athletics. I'm not the best looking. So I would lie and lie and lie and lie and lie. Because that was the only thing I was good at. And I never realized that that was the only thing that I was good at because other people chose not to lie. It wasn't me being good at something or better at something. It was other people knew I was bad. I didn't. And I gave her multiple reasons not to believe me. My father would forgive me, or she would remember. But and it was not because my father always felt like he was in between us, between me and her. But most of the time, and that's it's such a complicated situation. I wouldn't talk. I wouldn't talk to her. First of all, because I didn't trust her. It was a case of if I tell you something and you tell my father, I don't trust you. I don't trust you at all. But the second part was also that, like, fuck. I'm like, this person, I don't know if I wasn't looking for a parent, for a mother figure. I wasn't looking for a father figure. I knew who my parents was, and I loved them. With Soli, see, at my mom's house, with Soli, I was so uncomfortable with Soli. I would stay in my room the whole entire fucking. I would spend time at my mom's house, 2 days out of a month, and I was spending the 2 days playing video games and being there. I would barely see my mom. If I saw my mom an hour and a half or 2 hours out of those 2 days, it was good. But then in the summer, I would see my mom more often, and the difference there, and that's super stupid, but she was alone and he wasn't there. So I would stay in my room to be alone, and I think it was because I didn't feel comfortable there. See, at his house, my stepfather's house, I never felt it was home. I never felt like it was home. I never felt like it was home. My dad's house, it was my house, you know. And I feel like I treated her badly because my stepdad treated me badly. My stepdad never asked me anything about myself. He didn't ask a question about me. We really my the stepdad was it was a roommate situation, or she wasn't. She cared about me, right? But then with Soli had a son. She didn't have kids. I was her only chance as a kid. But then I didn't want to be your kid. I had my own mom. So with her, and it was always like a situation of almost this mistrust. And to be fair, I didn't care about her. I would call my dad. I would talk to my father, and I was looking at him, and I feel bad for her because we were basically living the three of us. So this is me. This is her. This is my father, right? Like this actually, like this on a table, and me and my father would talk, and we look at each other, and we would be eating for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and we would just me and him talking. So there's not a question of if did she feel part of the family. No, and I didn't ask her a question. I should have included her more for sure. Then I grew older. When I grew older, I became more independent. I became a lot more independent. And even then, it was a fucking. The worst situation that happened was my father is very very worried about life. I don't know why. I remember I went to high school. I was 12 years old, And I would come home at 6:30, 7 o'clock. I was chilling with my friends. Now, the difference with them, again, I'm not trying to be a dick. They didn't have a good family home. So they would spend the most time possible outside. I had a good family home. So my father was like, I don't know where you are. I don't trust you. I'm going to make sure that she brings you in every single morning and she picks you up. Now, my father is a very stubborn person. So when he said that, he didn't ask her, hey, do you mind pick up my son from school? Do you mind bringing him to school in the morning? He didn't ask her. She just, this is how it is. So right away, I could tell that she didn't want to pick me up. Or I felt like she didn't want to pick me up, and I didn't want to be in the car. So that really was one of the first things that didn't have in common. Now, I'm watching the time. I have to hurry up with the story. So then I grew older, and as I grew older, see, as a kid, I always needed my father. I was a scared kid. My father was a model of strength. I had a problem with my father. And with my mom was such a caring person. She was always so enabling. I didn't come to my mom for problem. My mom was, if I wanted to good food, if I wanted to have fun, I was my mom. If I wanted advice, I was my father. And then when I became like a teenager, I started disconnecting from them. I started being on my own, right? Now, ultimately speaking, this is where it really started to go bad. I was possibly 14, 15. I would spend less time with them. When I was younger, we used to watch TV, the three of us together. When I got older, no, I'm going to watch my show, you're going to be watching your show, no problem. The only time that we had together was when I was at a table. For my father, it wasn't not enough. It was not enough. I don't know. And the weird thing with my father is, when I was bad, he used to put me in my room. Go in your room. And when I was in my room, and I'm sorry to say that's stupid, because in my room I got the radio and I got books. I can have as much fun as in my room as I can have without being in my room, right? My room had everything. I had food in there because it was the pantry. It was like the walk-in where we put the food. I remember them putting. This is embarrassing. I remember them putting a fucking Costco box of saltine, and that was a couple of meals. You know. And it sucked. It sucks. See, there was a lot of passive aggressiveness. There was a lot of not solved problem. For example, she would cook, and then she would tell me and my father, "Hey, I cooked. You do the dishes." And in my mind, I was like, "No, I don't want to do the dishes." But it was true. She did cook, so it's only fair that we did our part. You know, I don't know why it was such a problem for me as a kid. I was like, oh, and I resented her for it. I was like, fuck you, you're not doing the dishes. Right? But then again, I wasn't doing shit. And then as I got older, it got worse. I was at the table, and I don't know why, but I had such a disney for space. I think, I look at myself, and I absolutely think that because my father was so not necessarily controlling, but he was so, I'm here. I'm fucking here. You're not gonna have space. He took so much place. Yeah. Yeah. He took so much space. I think I looked for peace with my mom's house. See, I'm gonna tell you something I shouldn't tell you. Okay, when my mom's house, I started to become excited to see my mom, of course, but I became more excited, and I feel bad because I love my mom, but I became more excited to be alone when it came to being in her place than not. I was so well alone. I could stay in my room. I could listen to my own show, and my father's, I couldn't listen to the show. It was his radio station. It was his TV shows, right? And it sucked. It really sucked because no, I wasn't even supposed to learn English. He didn't want me to speak English. We went into a big fight 2 weeks. And I don't know why I'm always saying 2 weeks. In a big fight because he asked me for help. And we went to the store. And the guy who was serving us clearly wasn't speaking French. So I asked him in English, and he helped us. And my father was like, "Oh, don't you ever talk to him in English to a person like that again." And I'm like, "What's wrong?" He said, "You have to protect their language. Aren't you proud to speak French?" I'm like, yeah, I love speaking French. This is my fucking language. Do I love speaking French enough to be waiting for 45 minutes looking for something we're not gonna find because the store is fucking huge? Or if I have to speak English a little bit to get some help, I'm not speaking English with you, I'm speaking English with him. But he got mad at me for that. See? And then what ended up happening was, and as I grew up, the interest became different. I became really interested in. I see with video games. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. With video games, I can understand why he was not in the same zone as I am. And then I became obsessed with working out. I was possibly in grade 9. I became obsessed with working out. I would spend my dinner working out, and to me, working out was an escape. Because again, I didn't use my body. I was always in my head. I was always in my head. With working out, I could spend how much energy I wanted. If I wanted to scream or if I wanted to be angry, I was just lifting weight. It was very therapeutic for me. And my father had some weights downstairs. And again, how can I not? I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z or Bleach. So I was in love with working out because I'm like, I want to be looking like a Saiyan, like a fucking Saiyan. So I used to spend time after school. So now me and my stepmom, and I would do it on purpose to get detention. I would do it on purpose to get detention because I knew she wouldn't pick me up because it was later. We used to finish at the same time, around the same time. She would finish at 4. I would finish at 3:30. I would wait for her. So at my detention would finish at like 4:30. Then I would use the school gym to work out, and I would come back at 6. And I'm like, oh well, I missed a couple of bus, right? But I was in love with working out, right? And then this created this space, and then I think it's created this space because with my dad, it was so good. It was so good because I started working out, and I was like, I don't really need. Okay, I'm gonna do another video because it's a long subject.